I don't think we've taken attendance yet. Approval of the agenda is up first. Motion and support. Any additions or deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public comment. Public, you have 3 minutes to address the Board of the Agencies and Affairs. And I see no general public. Next up, we have the minutes from the April 9th Agencies and Affairs. Motion and support. Any changes or additions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next up is the Leone DDA semi-annual report. Debbie Kelly.
No.
Nope.
Oh.
Used to be Debbie Kelly.
Aha.
Now you have Region 2 doing that. We started their administration of the Leone DDA in January, and so there hadn't been a report submitted to you, a 6-month report, since Debbie Kelly and the Enterprise Group did their work for them. So
I should have known when I saw how long it was when I read through it.
I think mine's is about the same size as Debbie's, I think. I compared them word for word.
Steve Duke, go ahead.
At the top of this staff report that I provided to you, Leone DDA awards a number of grants for facades, water and sewer, roofing, signage, parking lots, and tree trimming. And I gave you a list there of all the grants that have been given out probably in the last year sometime. The big thing going on in Ann Arbor right now is the new non-motorized trail that's going to go in along Ann Arbor Road. We've been working on that for about 2 years. There's 2 grant fundings for that. There's a Transportation Alternatives Program Fund from the feds, which was channeled through MDOT, and they also got a Safe Routes to School grant, which is also federal money funneled through MDOT. So we have a number of grants to supplement this project, and Leone DDA put in quite a bit of money as the local match requirement, and they're also going to be maintaining the trail. The trail is going to be constructed through the Jackson County Department of Transportation. It's going from the existing trail at Ponderosa down to Hackett, then it will extend over to Jackson Middle School and High School. It's going to be an asphalt trail. The project was bid, and the opening of the bids is going to be on June 1st, and work on the trail will start probably July 1st, and they're hoping to have that done in the early fall with that project. On the second page, I just gave you some general activities that were going on in Leone Township. I'm sure you're all aware of the number of marijuana licenses that have been awarded out there. One of those, the LDDA purchased the old Jackson Drive-In property, and that was sold to Choice Labs. It's a medical marijuana growing operation. That project is already under construction out there, and that's within the DDA. Henry Ford had that colonoscopy center out there. They're going to start that up again, and they're actually looking to expand that property, and that is right next to this medical marijuana facility that's going in. Of course, the Dollar General has opened out there on Ann Arbor Road, and that's about it. Any questions?
Thank you, Steve. Any questions, commissioners? Steve? Steve Duke. We have one question here from our chair. You turn to, Sue.
Leone DDA 3 or 4 years ago was involved in a drainage issue with Sycamore Baptist Church and Hard Knot Grill, and then all of the properties going south from there. Has anything ever proceeded on that? Has that drain been opened that's in the middle of Sycamore Baptist Street's parking lot? Has anything occurred with that?
I'll defer that to Carl Rice.
I got together the Drain Commissioner, the Jackson Road Department, Michigan Department of Transportation, Leone Township, and whoever else, DEQ, you name it, I got together. We had a big meeting. We walked the path, we walked the area. The Drain Commissioner went throughout the whole process. Everybody said it wasn't their fault, wasn't their responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. They did do some work behind adjacent to the old Hard Knocks where the car lot is. They did some work at the back part of Sycamore Baptist parking lot to help drainage through there. But as far as anything further, it was ultimately decided that MDOT needed to address it. They did do some culvert work, but aside from that, MDOT has said that's all they're going to do. So there you go.
So the third payment setup that the drain commissioner had arranged with the property owners to expose that drain didn't go forward and is not going to go forward. So we're going to continue having the water problems inside the church parking lot?
Well, actually, the water problems are not as significant as they used to be. They're still somewhat there. Pastor Boyd is actually a friend of mine. He's very well familiar with what's going on. They understand the dilemma. Part of the problem involved the fact that there needed to be, it's a long story to this, but what was creating that required some easements for that water drainage, and some of the property owners were talked to besides Sycamore. They were not willing to do anything with any of the easements. They were not willing to give anything up. So again, ultimately the road department actually did us a favor. They went out there and they did provide a way for there to be better drainage than what we have. So at least from a Sycamore standpoint in the back part of their parking lot, it is much better. And even where it flowed down to where the car lot is, it has improved. And since they did that, there has been no complaints from anybody.
Is the trail going to continue to Watts?
No, at this point it does not. We talked about extending it down there when we did the application, but the MDOT folks that were advising us said the problem was it doesn't connect at this point. Even going to Watts, it wouldn't have connected. This way it's going to go down to Hackett, go behind the bowling alley, and right up to the school. And that's the safe routes to school part of the grant. Carl?
I can add to that too. Initially, we had worked with MDOT. MDOT had actually already had us start the design. They were part of the process actually to go all the way down to 127 and then cut over to Watts. And then as we went through the process and spent Lord knows how many hours, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours on this thing, MDOT backed off and said, no, you can't do it now because we don't consider there's connectivity, so you're going to have to stop at Hackett Road. So they actually put a stop to it for us, unfortunately, because we're willing to do the whole thing.
The DDA also paid for new lighting along Ann Arbor Road, this stretch of Ann Arbor Road, which has already been installed. It's going to light up Ann Arbor Road as well as the trail. It's going to have deflectors on it to do both. And the DDA paid for that as well, too.
Thank you. Moving on to the Blackman DDA, and I think that is Deb Kelly.
It is. Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Well, I don't have as an exciting report as Steve did for the Leone DDA. We don't have a lot going on in the Blackman DDA currently, but you do have a small report in front of you this morning. The one thing that I would like to point out this morning is that the interested developer that we did have been speaking to for a couple of years, he's no longer pursuing the property. So this Wednesday morning at our Blackman DDA board meeting, which is Wednesday at 7 a.m., we're going to be discussing how we can help the DDA with marketing strategies to maybe incentivize a different audience, maybe not retail as the board has been discussing. So that's something that we're going to be working on that you'll see coming before you soon. But other than that, unless there's any questions, I don't have anything else to add this morning.
Commissioners, any questions of Deb on the Blackman DDA report? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the equalization approval of the L4029. Ruth? Good morning.
Good morning. This is your annual tax rate request, L4029. You'll notice this year is the first year you have the Lifeways millage on here for the winter bill. And you do have two proposals out there, so if either of those are approved, we would have to do a revised L4029 for the winter bill. But the summer, all that is levied is the operating, so we're good to go there. Any questions?
Okay, this needs to go to the full Board of Commissioners. Any questions first, Commissioners? If not, we'd be looking for motion to send it on. Motion Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ruth. Under Sheriff Cool, Tyler Tech.
Good morning. I'm here before you looking for approval to pay the maintenance fees for Tyler Technologies. For a little bit of background, Tyler Technologies is the software systems and the operating platforms that run essentially all public safety agencies in this county. Everything from our county jail and its booking records to law enforcement records, police reports, to the computer-aided dispatching system. It is a universalistic approach. All the data follows each other through call creation, through police handling of the call, through arrest, etc. There's a couple distinct varieties of that. So prior to Tyler Technologies buying out the former New World Systems, which is what they used to be, New World Systems did not have a great track record of customer service. That has improved significantly in the last probably 18 to 20 months. We've been with New World or Tyler Technology in some form since I believe about 2012 or 2013. This is the annual maintenance fees. This provides for IT support. It provides for updates, changes to the platform, etc. Back in about late 2016, we set out to kind of research what other options were out there. The costs on this were getting quite high. It was like any other technology agreement that it begins to escalate over time. You pay more. Those costs were negotiated by probably 2 IT directors ago. So last year, our costs were almost $170,000. They were due to be about $180,000 this year. We relayed to Tyler Technologies that was unmanageable and frankly, not agreeable. So we sought out and researched a number of products. I think we started out with about 7. We boiled it down to about probably 2 components or manufacturers that provide probably, in my opinion, the best use or best functionality. One of them was a product called Clemis out of Oakland County that's made by Oakland County. But once we went over there, saw the functionality, the price of admission was very low on this, but once you start stacking on the features that you need that we currently have, like in-car compatibility, some of the functionality within the car, the costs began to escalate pretty quickly. The other problem is Clemis only had a law enforcement records type of component. They didn't have anything that dealt with computer-aided dispatching, and oddly enough, since it was created by Oakland County, they didn't have anything that managed the jail or the correctional aspect of it. So really, if we have 3 things that we're looking to replace, they only offered a solution to one of them. They had other vendors that were, quote, preferred vendors, but then you're getting into an agreement where you've got all these different vendors out here. So we went and spent about a day and a half at Oakland County, watched their demonstration. I was not super impressed with it. We then narrowed in on another company called Superion. At the time, it was called OSS SunGuard. Calhoun County uses it. It's a complete solution, meaning dispatch, law enforcement records to jail. We had worked on an agreement with Superion that we were going to essentially use Calhoun as the backbone, so we were going to kind of merge with them. The cost was a little bit high initially, but the recurring costs were very low. But the problem was we did not have the speed or functionality or connectivity between Jackson and Calhoun County to make this system work. To move to this system alone, Superion that is, as a standalone system, it was almost $750,000. It was not manageable. So we went back with Tyler Technologies and told them what we were looking for, expressed to them our concern about the cost, etc. And they had negotiated some agreements downward for the renewal of the current cost to be $138,000. We'd also negotiated a cost for next year for 2019 for $125,000. And those reduced costs are under the hope that here sometime in probably the next 18 or 20 months, we can move to what's called a hosted solution with our computer-aided dispatching, merge with Lenawee and Monroe counties, who are also looking to move to this type of hosted solution. And essentially what it does is it reduces your cost. It gets the server space or the requirements of some of the space that you need to have off of our backs and puts it onto kind of like a web-based type of feature or functionality. It does a lot of things and obviously reduces the costs. Now, it is a good solution. That's kind of the way that we're going. The more that I begin to look at all these companies out there, the more I realize that a lot of it's just the same kind of stuff. It's like buying a Ford or a Chevy. You get a couple different options here, a couple different options there. Nobody really has a revolutionary game changer. But what I am seeing right now in a lot of these public safety software technology companies, which I would kind of define as the next frontier, you have a whole bunch of companies buying a bunch of other companies up, and there's a lot of competition out there. Things are changing very rapidly. I'm not sure this is the time where we want to venture out and do something new or different and kind of wait for some of these moving plates out there to resolve themselves before we decide to make a significant change, either to another vendor or some type of hugely different platform. The funds for this, the $138,000, these are budgeted funds in each of the respective operating budgets of either the road patrol, the central dispatch function, or the county jail. So we're not using anything that hasn't been budgeted, but based on our conversations last year, the board wanted they wanted to hear this information to have the approval. And we're no longer under contract with them. They don't have a contractual function anymore. It's just 180-day out notice, I think. So these are fees that you have to pay every year, just like any other technological company, probably similar to our BSNA software, et cetera.
Chris, I've got several questions for you. The first is, so there is no contract with this, is what you ended with?
Yeah, no, when Tyler bought New World had a contractual agreement which bound us through last year. And after that, when Tyler bought them, they actually moved from a contractual obligation to just give us either 90 or 180 days notice to get out of the contract.
So I'm curious also if our IT department, I know we have a new director there now, she probably was not involved, but has IT recently gone over this proposal, and are they supportive or no comment on it or what?
When we had these agreements with, when we had these conversations with Tyler Technologies, we were without an IT director. This is not a new agreement. It's the same SSMA, or the Standard Software Maintenance Agreement, that we've had for the last, 9 or 10 years, that talks about each of the componentry functions and the cost, and of course we negotiated down for $138,000.
So you mentioned in the document anyway that there's a number of agencies that use part of this software but don't pay anything towards it, and that would be, well, I guess both the dispatch element of it, but the records management system as well. And has any outside agency been brought in to consult on this or even be advised of what's going on with it? And again, I guess I point out that I'm familiar with Columbus through Lenawee County, which they've just moved from New World to Columbus, not for dispatch obviously, but they're working with Columbus to get that element of it designed the way it'll work for them in the way that it would work for us. I'm apprehensive to do this. I know the problem with New World has always been the cost of it. I'm glad to see the cost is coming down, but I think it would have been good if there was some consult with the local, at least police agencies that use the records management element of it.
What would we have consulted about?
About sticking with that system or changing to a different records management system like Columbus.
Well, we support all the public safety agencies in this county, police and fire. The fire service do pay in a small amount for their MABIS software. If an agency wants to go out on their own and change their software, they can feel free to do that. They're not bound to us. We've been providing this as a universal option, as a countywide option. Besides demoing these products, in which Superion came here, IT was part of this. They sat down for 2 days when Superion came here and gave us a demonstration of their product. I'm not sure what input a police agency would have had. They're not bound by our agreements. If they want something different, they can certainly go out on their own and pay their own fees.
It would have been good informationally for them, I think, to be part of the conversation instead of being surprised that we're continuing with it, to be honest with you. And I've talked to at least 2 of the chiefs, but not in relation to this specific request now, but in relation to the use of the system itself, so that we currently have. So those are the only questions I've got, Commissioners. Sarah?
I just have a question in regards to the GIS mapping. When we had our last street naming ordinance meeting, Scott said that the GIS software that is currently used with 911 it's so outdated and old that he has to save the current GIS maps, excuse me, in an old format. Would this update any of that?
I don't believe what he said is accurate, because the GIS software that we use is the same software that GIS uses. Essentially, what we're doing is we're taking the data from GIS's map and importing it to our system. Whether there's functionality differences between GIS's map and CAD, that I don't know. But the same software or the same company, which escapes me right now, is what we use. So essentially, you're supporting the GIS software within the CAD function and bring it over to lay it upon the CAD map. I know that we have a process because many times, frequently, daily, there's GIS map errors, not on our part, but on the GIS map, where it shows addresses that don't exist or addresses that do exist that don't. So we provide that data to GIS on either a daily or weekly basis, saying, hey, this address point or this address range is incorrect, you need to modify it to this. We've had that working relationship for years. I think it's just the nature of the beast. You've got, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of address and address points out there. Not every one of those is going to be accurate, but to my knowledge, that's the only extent. This is a renewal of the software that we've had and have had for a number of years. It progressively updated as time moves on.
Mike?
Yeah, just to clear that up in regard to that software with GIS, I think what Scott's referring to is the software that we're using now. Every time they upgrade a GIS platform software, there's not a corresponding upgrade necessarily to this vendor's software, so there's some disconnect there. They just need to be upgrading along when GIS changes. If that vendor doesn't pass it along to this vendor, or if this vendor doesn't make a modification of their existing software and how they interrelate, it becomes a workaround responsibility, if you will, on Scott's end to reconfigure to make sure his new GIS software is compatible with this software from what Tyler Tech. I think that's what he's referring to. It's not been something that he's not been able to work around, but at the same time, it's something that we should be, knowledgeable about and try and ask Tyler Tech to make sure they stay up to date with their software in regard to that, because it does create more work on Scott's end on the other end. That's what Scott was saying to us the other day, just literally like last week. And we were talking about GIS and some other matters, but thank you.
That would be beyond my technological know-how, so
Mine as
I'll leave that to
Mine
IT
too.
and GIS.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Chris, it sounds like this is kind of the best option that we have for right now, but I guess what I'm picking up, if this is what you're laying down, you're going to continue to take a look at this evolving process and continue to look for savings, and even possibly, as you had said, Matt, get together with Lenawee and get together with Monroe, that these are things that in the future, and I'm interested in that Calhoun situation in terms of, it sounds like it's an issue of the ability to get the data from point A to point B, and that is always constantly changing as well. So this just sounds like it's an evolving process, that this is the best we have right now. We've got a savings this year, we've got a savings next year, but you're going to continue to look. Does that sound right?
That would be absolutely correct. I mean, we want to maintain the status quo. Changing a records management system is not a cheap or easy task, because the data that we hold, you're talking years and years and years, thousands and thousands of booking jackets and booking photos and law enforcement records. Not all of those seamlessly convert to other systems, and every other system wants you to pay essentially king's ransom to get it out of your old system and into the new one. That was one of the things that we found, is that everybody has a price. Hey, here's our software suite. Here's the conversion cost, which sometimes can be as much or half as much as the actual product itself. Is this the best out there? No. Is it the worst out there? Absolutely not. Again, I know that other agencies would prefer other things, but we have to look at the big picture here, because I'm not just running a law enforcement operation. You have booking jackets to be concerned about, you have operation management of the county jail, you have central dispatch, so those records need to communicate to each other. If you start going out to all these different platforms, that doesn't necessarily work. So as opportunities become available, we looked at what would be the cost of maintaining some type of high-speed connectivity broadband between Jackson and Calhoun County, or between the two locations where the servers or data would lie. That was financially, it was just way out there. You're talking miles and miles and miles of it. So, as those things become available, we'll look at it. I'm not saying there won't be a change in the future, but I'm saying for right now, for the immediacy, this is probably the best option, and probably the least costly option for us to to maintain under these circumstances.
Chris, one last question for me, following up on John's question. I think this proposal is for 18 and 19. Is there any reason we couldn't separate that and just approve 18's portion of it?
It doesn't matter to me, because obviously if we go with a hosted CAD solution where we kind of affiliate with several other counties, that would be, in a perfect world, happening sometime in the next 12 to 14, 16 months. I'd be back here anyways. The reality is I'll probably come back here next year for that same cost. I just wanted to show you that there had been a outreach by Tyler Technologies for a long-term solution, not just 1 year and you need to figure something out for next year.
Okay, any other questions from commissioners? If not, a motion's in order. Phil?
I'd make a motion to approve this and send it to the full board.
Okay. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Aye. Motion carried, goes to the full board. Sheriff, update on the 800 system, which we saw at study session, and the mic fee question.
Yeah.
I was thinking that we'd approved the mic fees at study session, had we not?
We did.
Okay. And I think everybody here has seen the 800 presentation, unless the undersheriff wants to give it again.
I don't have it, but I can.
It's on the agenda, but I thought we had seen it all and approved all that, so we're all set. Thank you. Fair resolution for the capital improvement bonds. Jim, good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this is the next step in the process where we're issuing bonds for $4 million in connection with the event center and other improvements at the fairgrounds. The first step was a 45-day notice, which was back in January, so this is the resolution authorizing the actual bonds. The bond proceeds and the sale will occur after the sale of the equipment bonds for JCDOT. So that's because of we do not need the money until later with respect to this project. Thank you.
Any questions of Jim, commissioners? If not, we'd be looking for a motion to send it to the full board.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, Jim. Next up is the Parks Mechanic 2 change of position responsibility and position upgrade. Morning, Jeff.
Good morning. So right in the first 4 months of my employment here, I came to you all with a reorganization that involved eliminating a full-time position at the golf course. We had 2 on the maintenance side, and that's somewhat unusual in the golf business, and our budget, in my opinion, long-term did not support that. So I'm back here because you learned some things over a couple of years working, and one of those is the fact that we have an antique irrigation system that is still working on the old hydraulic engineering design. There aren't many of them left, and long story short, we have an employee who bumped into the mechanic's position, has been doing a great job as a mechanic, who knows the system inside and out and can continue to make it function and continue to perform in the way that we need it to perform. So rather than one, lose our irrigation system, we don't have the funds to install a new irrigation system. We started looking at changing job responsibilities, and in doing so, working with the union and HR department, the position was rescored. The job description was adjusted to include in the mechanic's responsibilities the actual physical maintenance and repair of the irrigation system, along with, we believe in the future when the contract for golf carts is up, that we likely will look at a way to buy those in-house rather than lease them. It'll be a lot less expensive, but our mechanic would then maintain our own golf carts too. So that's the change we're requesting here. It is about a little over a $7,000 increase in the position, the way it was rescored by HR, but that $7,000 is a lot less expensive than the with benefits, $80,000 we were spending previously on the golf coordinator position. So this seems to be the obvious route to go.
Okay, commissioners, any questions? Or Mike, any further?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, did I hear you correctly? If we increase this $7,000, we don't need to buy a $700,000 irrigation system?
What you heard was that I have a better chance of keeping the current irrigation system alive.
I like the sound of that.
I have a better
makes
chance of
sense to me.
keeping the existing irrigation system alive for a while. I'm not going to predict how long for those of you who don't know, without me waxing on, I tell folks there's an old Johnny Cash song that some may be familiar with where he takes parts out of the Ford factory every day when he goes home and he builds a car, and he's asked in the song to describe the year of the car, and he starts with 57, 58, 59, 60. That's how you could describe our irrigation system. We have the original main line that's a 1929 cast iron line that supplies all the water on 18 holes. We had an upgrade in the late 40s on some of the outlying perimeter parts. We had another upgrade on irrigation heads in '84, and we had a change in the brain, if you will, that runs the whole system in the early 90s. So it's cobbled together, and how long the cast iron pipes that are 1929 design will last, I don't know. If they go, the whole system collapses.
Jeff, that was one piece at a time, and we all know how you wax on, so. I believe this gets approved here, does it not, Mike?
I'd move the request
There's support?
as written.
Motion and support. Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Jeff, full-time customer service position.
Yes, this is sort of a moment of opportunity, I guess we'll say. We had currently have a part-time employee in a customer service clerical assistant position in Parks, and we have a part-time position at the fairground. The young lady who had been filling the part-time position at the fairground resigned to take another position. We know when the event center opens up, the new event center, we're going to need a full-time customer service person at the front desk. We're combining all of the park's responsibilities, from answering the phone to shelter reservations, campground reservations, special events applications and reservations, with all the ticket sales and 4-H registration, all those types of things. So we know we're going to need that. It made sense at this point to go ahead and make that move rather than fill the fair position with a body that later on we wouldn't need, and make a choice and ask somebody to depart at that point. So we're making a recommendation to move forward. What it means is that we'll share this position between Parks, and I'll be shorthanded a bit in the short term at Parks, because this position will spend the majority of its time at the fairground. But with technology, accounts payable, payroll, some of the other things can be done electronically. We'll be fine.
Commissioners, any questions of Jeff? If not, looking for a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, Jeff. Parks and Fairs semi-annual report.
Get Denise set up here.
Yes, because you all remember I have technology issues with this particular program.
PowerPoint.
Just hitting the button, not PowerPoint.
Hey, he knew he was going to go there.
Good morning. You know, on top of everything you guys have to do, I know this is the funnest and most relaxing program that you'll get today, probably. Well, it's been a great year on the fairgrounds. That's how I look at it. Maybe sometimes the bottom number doesn't always speak to it, but we are moving forward and making lots of good changes that I'll bring a different report to you that will even be better than this one. As always, our storage was a great season. We did really well. We store about 125 units, and that includes big RVs, small RVs, OTVs, and jet skis, all those kind of good stuff. So we just had our out day just a couple of weekends ago, and people are pleased and already put in their deposits for next year. So that's just a continually growing program. Our Beer Fest, if any of you didn't come, you missed a great opportunity to have, to showcase what a great program that has become. It was our 8th annual. And this year, we netted over $30,000 for our premium account, which is the account that pays our exhibitors their monetary awards for the ribbons. So that's always great. Just finished Project Red. Sarah could speak to that too, because she was there. That's a great opportunity for all the third graders in Jackson County that are able to participate come in, and we've got a lot of great farmers that donate time and a ton of volunteers through Farm Bureau and such that come in and show the kids what it means to, how you get your food on your table, what it means agriculture is important to the state of Michigan, and really is a great educational program that has continued to move forward. We got a lot of great events coming up. The first one is a brand new one. It'll be a one-time only. It's our commemorative to the track, which everyone knows will be removed shortly right after Fair Week. But it's harness racing, remembering Jackson Harness. And it's Mike Way is a huge part in this. We've gotten a lot of sponsorship dollars for this particular program. It's a free event, so we expect to be huge crowds. And we're going to bring back the dollar beer and the dollar dogs, and we've got some great food vendors that are going to be there, but I think it's going to be really fun. Right now, we actually had to cut off the number of horses because it had gotten too big. So we've got over 60 horses that will be running in a number of races. Their monetary rewards are being raised by Mike Way right now because there'll be no betting. This is an exhibition program only, but there'll be a lot of fun things going on. You won't miss the fact that you're not betting. We've got bringing back again this year an opportunity to have a concert in Barn 3. We did this 2 years ago. It was phenomenal. And again, I really strongly encourage every one of you guys to come to this event. We haven't announced it yet, but if you were there 2 years ago, you'll very much enjoy this. So Barn 3 is going to have a couple of little changes to it just to make sure we comply with the fire code. So we're just going to do a couple little tweaks to that barn, but it'll be all good in the end. We've got the dog shows several different times and several different groups of dog shows that have been at the fair, and the last one will be coming up actually over Labor Day weekend. And the big one, though, I don't want to miss this for the chairman, is our plant sale that is coming up here in just a couple of weeks. So be sure to come down to the Gumper Building and get your spring plants. We always have the circus. They're great people. They've been with us for over 20 years. They probably won't go in the new event center, but they do love the old event center, so it's still perfect for them. The car sales, American One has all of their car sales starting this fall. They'll be bringing those back again. They do a few at Sears, and that's due to some contracts that they're trying to finish up with them. And then, always a ton of weddings go on, and I know we have had a lot of people that have talked about when can we get a reservation for the new building. So there's a lot of interest out there for that. And of course, the big event for us is our Fair Week, which is the 5th through the 11th. But we're lucky this year that we've continued to work with Mr. Shealy. He's doing some repair work. I mean, this building will be 100 years old here just shortly down the road. So he's making sure that everything is in working order. What we did this year is put in a new wash station for our animals over on the side of Barn 3. It's something that DEQ has wanted us to repair for a very long time, and I'm thrilled with the way it turned out. It looks great, so if anyone is traveling down North Street during Fair Week, you get to watch these kids wash their animals, and I think it's been a lot of fun for anyone who maybe didn't realize, what's entailed in that, but the kids enjoy it too. The removal of the log cabin, that's one thing that we did do, and probably nobody even missed it, but it didn't just go into a burning pile. We actually donated it back to the same group that gave it to us many years ago. They came in, they disassembled it in a very orderly manner, and they put it back up, and I believe it's over in the Hanover-Horton area, maybe Hanover more than Horton, so. And as we move forward with the master plan that you guys all know about, that's been going on for a number of years, we're in the cusp of hoping to get a final picture and direction for our new event center, so that's an ongoing, a moving target. The track removal, like I said, Christopher over there is going to be the key person in taking care of that, and that will start according to, at least, dates kind of change a little bit, but the game plan is right after the fair that we'll start that. He's going to work around some of the things, like we've got the concert in the fall that's down by Barn 3, that he's going to work with us to make sure that we've got some parking available still for that event on the infield. We were very lucky. For the final time, 5 years in a row, we applied for a grant through MDA, Department of Ag, to get a handicap accessible ramp. Every year I order one. Every year it costs me about $6,000 to get that ramp in, because every year I put such great shows on that even our older folks like to come and see, or those, so we've just really been hurting to get something that is permanent. It's going to be attached to the front of the grandstand, and it's just going to create a much better environment. So we're excited. We did finally get that grant, due to actually, I think, our county grant writer. She did a great job on that, so really kudos to her. And we have noticed that the Gumper Building, which you all know is probably one of our most beautiful buildings on the grounds, it's getting a little old, getting a few cracks and things that are happening. So we have a structural engineer that's going to be reviewing that, and we probably will be putting a little bit of funding into that to make sure that it's totally safe for everybody, because that building is something that we are hoping to actually use further than just Fair Week, and I know the capability is there. And again, Fair Week is August 5th through the 11th, so mark your calendars. I'm always looking for volunteers. And our grandstand shows this year, we actually have 4, but we haven't made the final announcement for the final show, so we didn't share it. But our country show, which is on Sunday night, which is the day you guys can't get on and ride any rides, because there's no rides. So when you come down to that show, just come to eat and play games and see all the exhibits. That's John Anderson, Pam Tillis in Little Texas. And then Darcy Lynn Farmer, if any of you watched America's Got Talent, she won last year. She is phenomenal. We had Jeff Dunham, who is an excellent ventriloquist. This little gal blows him right out of the water. She sings beautifully. She's really something. So we're very excited. That opportunity came up and really went very quickly. We got the, hey, do you want to put an offer in? Hey, you got accepted. That doesn't happen very often. So our promoter got kudos for that. And then we just announced Theory of a Dead Man, which they go by Theory now, but they're kind of fading out Theory of a Dead Man. Sounds like something you guys want to probably come and see. It's going to be a great show. Pop Evil, who almost is becoming the Jackson Band because they've been here. This will be their 3rd time, and they have a great following because they're a Michigan band from the Grand Rapids area. And like I said, so on the 14th, we'll be making the final announcement for our Classic Rock show. I'm excited about this particular show that's in the Free Act area, which is a bird show. And actually, Commissioner Mahoney secured this for us when he went to IEBA. And I gave him, that was his task. You bring me back a great Free Act. Because we've been doing really well with the Free Acts. But you can only look at tigers and lions so many times. This is going to be phenomenal, and it's going to be really interesting. But they've got, eagles and condors and owls, and I think it'll be extremely educational, and it'll be a lot of fun. And then we have Elvis is coming back on Monday. Elvis is a very popular person. He is Matt King from the Mason area, and he's very talented, so he does our senior day, and they just love him. And the Birthing Barn is the other Free Act, so everybody likes to watch the babies. So as you can see, our results for the fair for last year, our attendance was up just a little bit. Our exhibitors were up a little bit. Judged entries, weirdly enough, was about 10 down. I don't know where that happened, if it's just happened in our Blue Ribbon program, but that number is just a little bit lower. The fair payout, that's pretty much in the neighborhood of our payouts for the last few years, has been in that area. Our expenses this year were $745,000 and change. But in our revenues, you can see, does supersede that amount just by a touch of a little over or under $300,000. So I sure appreciate it. If you got any questions, I'd be happy to take them. But I will make one little side note that we didn't put in here. This year, we're actually moving where our small stage is. We're no longer going to use for this year where the Herman Gumper stage, we called it, which is the south end of the Herman Gumper building, because we are going to move it under our permanent pavilion. We're going to put a tent up so that we can add to the tables and chairs like folks like to do, which if you're familiar with a fair, you walk in, and that's right on the west side of the fair office. And I think the visibility for those small acts is it's going to be a lot better. So we're excited about that. Yeah. So any questions?
Commissioners, any questions of Denise or Jeff? Thank you.
Yep, thank you. I probably should say, since he's my boss, but that was kind of Jeff's idea, but I ran with it.
Okay. I do want to point out that I helped Denise design that, and she has more slides than I do.
He did use
I like how you were moving the slideshow along, Jeff. We gotta get somebody to run it for you when you're doing yours.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, I won't overview, you've all seen this, it was in your report, but this gives you a sense of the scale we're working with. Again, if you have any questions, last year was a very good year. Weather played a huge role in that. Obviously, we had 4 days that were in the high 70s in February. March was equally as warm or near record warm, so we had a much more extended season, and these numbers reflect that, so we're very pleased. This year has been just the opposite, as you've all noted. Spring has been slow to spring, and it is finally here, and things are starting to pick up, but I think we'll be hard-pressed to meet some of these numbers. One of the more impressive numbers here, by the way, is the number of bundles of firewood sold, and that's all I've got some labor in it, but that's all storm damage throughout the winter that we recycle and sell in the campground, so works out very well. I wanted you all to see this. This isn't something I'd shared with you, but we talked about the scale of the park system, but this gives you a better sense of what we're spending a lot of the resources you provide us on just to maintain mowing, emptying trash cans, plowing, storm damage, those types of things. And you can see over almost 26,000 acres that we mow over the course of the season in the 17 parks. Over 25,000 trash cans have to be picked up and emptied and the materials disposed of. The amount of man-hours we put in just the maintenance side of the Cascade Falls, the 768 hours, we have to shut that down. It takes us about 4 weeks to clean it and get it up and going in the spring, and then we have to shut it down every month just to clean the lips of each of the falls, because we do have, as some of you may have noticed with the splash pad, a very high content of iron in the water. It is not, somebody asked me if it was dangerous. Iron is not dangerous. It will not harm our children or anyone. It just creates discoloration, which no one really likes. Park improvements in 17, we are 17, 18 I put in here because some of these were just finishing up. We tried to get contractors engaged and could not get within budget with the bathhouse renovation. So we basically decided to be our own general contractor and manage it with subs. So Jack McLuhan on our staff has managed the project. We've used a lot of different subs, but we've been able to get it within budget, and it looks great. We'll open this spring. The Cascade restrooms through a generous, 2 generous grants, one from the Hearst Foundation, actually 3. The Hearst Foundation contributed, Alro contributed, and then the Irene and Frank Meyer Foundation contributed to the $65,000 we're spending. And you'll notice if you come to the Cascades, the restrooms have been completely remodeled and modernized for the first time. So one of my big complaints was folks did not like to go into those restrooms. We've been able to replace the entire ventilation system, which was a huge part of the problem. It wasn't working for many years and wasn't removing the moisture, but we've resealed the floors, we've put in new fixtures, we've repainted, we've put in new ceilings, new LED lighting, so that is significantly better. I won't go through all of these, many of them you're familiar with if you have any questions. Event planning, we've got 28 concerts in the park coming up. Top of the Falls, our park board has engaged in a fundraiser that will happen on the make sure I get this right, the 10th, 12th. It's the first Monday in June, and I will get you all the exact information and date. I apologize. It's in my head, but it isn't coming out at the moment. But basically, it's a ticketed event where there'll be hors d'oeuvres and beverages and entertainment at the top of the falls, designed to I'll be the keynote speaker, and I'll be talking about the millage and our parks and our park improvements. So we're hoping that we can get a good turnout. We have 3 fireworks shows. Another new event, Palooza at the Falls, which is June 7th, which is a Thursday night, is our first, although families and children are invited, they'll be ID'd, and wristband, and it'll be an event where there will be adult beverages being served. The first act is a regional country music band out of the Grand Rapids area that's terrific, the Brian Randall's band, and then the main stage show will be the Rock Show Band. I've seen them several times. They are the premier Journey tribute band in the country, in my opinion. So if you want to hear, in fact, I think they do many of the Journey songs better than Journey does. Their lead singer is the living Steve Perry. He's just fantastic. So if you get a chance, tickets have been selling well. We've been using the e-ticket system at the fairground, so we're really excited. Okay, and then last but not least, wanted to be clear that the park board adopted, they went through a planning process and adopted some priorities for us as staff to focus on. And several of you have seen these, but I wanted to share these with everyone. Really emphasizing partnerships and working across government agencies and with the nonprofit sector. Really focusing on making our parks a place where people can be more active and live a healthy lifestyle, to protect our bodies of water and ensure there's public access to all of them, that they aren't privatized, continue to develop our trail system across the county, and again, partner with other jurisdictions to create connectivity. Continue to make our parks a great place for others to hold and host events. We had a terrific 5K fundraising event at the park this weekend that went very, very well. And then last but not least, to continue to create more access to nature and connectivity to the outdoors. That's it. Any questions? If not, we'll be back next year.
Not a question so much as a comment that June 12th is the date for the Top of the Falls.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I knew it was in there.
And that the tickets are $30 for that event, and I still have a couple of tickets if anybody's interested in heading that one, getting to the top there. And even if we sell out of the tickets that I have, I'm sure that there's plenty of room up there for individuals.
We have them in our office if anybody runs out.
Any other questions, commissioners? Thank you both.
Thank you.
J.C. Dot.
Sorry, no problem.
Good morning. Our first item here is pretty straightforward. It's something you'll see each year. It's an annual engineering reimbursement that we submit to receive $10,000. As you may recall from last year, it's an antiquated dollar amount from 1951, which used to pay an entire salary for a PE. Now that's not the case, obviously, but we'll take the money, of course. We have 4 PEs on staff, as you see in the write-up, myself, Angie Klein, and then Corey and Brett as well.
Commissioners, if no questions, looking for motion to send it to the full board.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Sign trucks.
This is a good news item. It's part of our equipment bond from 2.5 years ago now, where we were looking to make efficient strides in our effectiveness. We originally budgeted for a large sign truck and a small sign truck for a total cost of $425,000 in the initial capital plan. Here we're asking for 2 small sign trucks at $270,278. And if we act now, we've learned that we save on a price jump of approximately 20% by buying the current available chassis that we've demoed. So timing is very important, and you'll see a few purchases come through in the next few months as we look to spend the remainder of that bond funds before its deadline. We have 3 years to spend once those bond dollars are issued, so this is one of those final items. So, good news, we're saving about $155,000, and happy to take any questions.
Chris, you're going to have an extra truck now, which comports with the staffing plan, and the truck that you're keeping is in good enough shape to keep, obviously, and that's a large one, is it?
The large one.
It's a fairly new Peterbilt, yes.
Yeah. What's happening is with Summit, Spring Arbor, and a new emphasis on safety, we are replacing a lot of signs countywide. We have thousands and thousands of signs. So we're looking to keep one person roving around. And when we do a road improvement project now, I call it a complete roads philosophy, where we do all the culverts, the driveways, and but also the signs. So this is keeping us extremely busy.
Steve?
Christopher, I've been approached by quite a few different people about the new yellow signs that are being put under stop signs that say Pulaski Road does not stop, Hindi Road does not stop, those type of questions. Is that again a safety procedure that we're doing those yellow and black signs on? To further protect people from heavy accident areas? Is that the idea? I see your partner nodding yes behind you.
It is, yes. It's an advisory sign to alert motorists, and I have worked with our team to change our philosophy where, it used to be we don't put up any unnecessary signs, sign pollution kind of thinking. However, I'm a believer that signs like that and others, deer crossing, et cetera, are valuable, that motorists do pay attention to those, and sign pollution is really more about advertising signs and so forth in urban areas, which we don't have a big problem with in our community.
Well, we have had people complain about you locating the deer crossing signs in heavy traffic areas. You probably should convince the deer to cross the road elsewhere.
Yeah, we'll work on a deer training program. We'll get them to cross in the right spot.
Okay, we're looking for a motion to, does this go to the full board with the amount? I think it does.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Okay, looking for a motion to send it on.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Uniforms.
As part of our collective bargaining agreement that we worked through with our association recently, uniforms were a big topic of discussion. And our workers, as you can imagine, go through a lot of clothing, and a lot of times they're wearing the tattered clothing for as long as they possibly can to eke out the money that they've spent on their clothes. So my vision for our department in working with all of you and looking at our countywide vision is to increase our professionalism and our what I call esprit de corps, much like a military operation or a fire department or the sheriff's department, good examples. But more importantly, to improve safety. Distracted driving is a big problem right now, and you'll see in the photo that we provided that the pants provide extra reflective layers on the clothing, so you not only get the vest up high, but the down low, and they really pop when you get in dim lighting and so forth. Also, it identifies our workers when they're on duty, regardless of where they are. So it's very important that we have clear identification of our public servants when they're on the clock. Studies do show that these extra reflectivity measures do help with visibility and prevent accidents. So from a risk management perspective, I think this is an important investment that we can proactively make to save money and prevent injury as much as possible. So there's one key thing that I'd like to highlight, and that is value. Right now, we are spending about twice as much per person because we currently provide uniforms for mechanics and then the rugs and the rags and so forth, $1,800 or so. This new program, the cost per person has dropped by 50% to about $900 some per employee. The change is that we're providing them for all employees, which has really boosted morale, and our workers are quite excited about this. We had a committee that helped to select the vendor, and that process was absolutely fabulous. I participated and was very impressed with the level of engagement from our employees, and they're quite excited about these.
So Chris, this is for all the collective bargain employees, 85 of them is what it amounts to.
That's correct.
Commissioners, any questions of the proposal? And this also would go to the full board. Looking for a motion.
Make a move. Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. West Michigan Ave Advanced Construct.
This may be my shortest agenda item ever because you can remove it. We received good We received word last week from MDOT that the funds had been secured, so we prepared this as a precautionary and proactive measure, but no longer needed.
Your motion, John. No,
I don't think so.
don't have
It's
to
up
do
you.
anything? Okay,
Yep, we need no action on that. We can
okay,
just-
very good.
I guess it dies, right?
It
Doesn't?
does.
Okay.
Local road summit.
Okay. We're spending a lot of money, hold your breath. 48.48 miles are in this bid package for improvement in Summit Township. This is our second package, you recall last year's work. So about 13.4 million was budgeted for this project in our initial estimates, and so we're well under that amount at 10.6 million total. We're pleased with the bid results, and the difference will be spent using our internal forces for our 30% match. We'll be doing signs, as we discussed earlier, culverts and driveway work and restoration and so forth. These are all things that our crews do very well, and generally at a lower cost than the contractors.
Chris, appreciate all the documents with it, including the list. So would this be the last part of it then, or will there be another plan after this?
Oh, you've got much more coming,
Okay.
actually, yeah.
How much was the total bond, out of curiosity, because this one's 10.6?
The total project was, I believe, 32 million estimated. And so far, we're under budget on all the projects, so it's good news so far.
Great. Commissioners, any questions of the proposal? If not, we'd be looking to send it on.
Make
Mike?
a motion to send it to the full board?
Support.
Motion and support. Mike?
I just had a question. How many projects is it? There's this one, and then what, 1, 2 more, 3?
It depends. In this case, we lumped it all in one giant project of 10 million. That's about the biggest we'd ever want to go. And one key reason we did this is to help our engineering team stay sane so they can work with one contractor on their scheduling and phasing. Short answer is probably 1 to 2 more big ones, one next year and one year after. If things are going well midsummer, we may want to put together a bid package yet again later this year, a smaller one though. So.
So, because people ask, and, in Summit, when my road's going to be redone, and I see you're in the northern, northwest territory there.
Correct.
As far as the southeast?
That'll be last. No, I'm kidding. We're basically using economy of scale principles, single mobilization to save money and so forth. But yes, and also there's a complexity factor that we build in when there's drainage issues or grade issues or sometimes easement or property issues. We put those on the back burner, and so that'll kind of be the last project we do, kind of a catch-up project with all the little things fixed. So, but our plan is to do one large project next year, and then we have 2020 to do a final one, should it be needed, which I'm sure it will be. So, I don't have the details on which area will be next. I think our engineering team is still working on that.
Okay. Phil?
Thank you. Reith Riley, they're a local company? Where are they from?
I think they're based in Lansing. Yeah,
Lansing,
Mason area. Mhm.
Do we have any local companies that do the same thing?
Well, Michigan Paving,
Okay.
and they bid. They were one of the 2 responsive bidders. They lost this one, but I think they won the other one we're presenting to you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we work closely with all vendors that are interested to make sure we solicit interest. Do
You
our
only had
best.
2 bidders on this one, though, correct?
We did,
Yeah.
on both.
Thank you.
John?
I can't answer that. I can tell you that Reith Riley and Michigan Paving are the 2 major hot mix asphalt vendors in our region. So this is a problem we discussed a couple of years ago when we were exploring our own asphalt plant, is, what happens when they get extremely busy doing MDOT work and so forth. But we do all we can to gain interest from the smaller firms. So there's Quality Asphalt, Lakeland over in Battle Creek. When they don't bid, they don't bid. There's nothing we can do.
But Chris, the next one was like 3.5 million, right? And you still only had 2 bidders on that one, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
If I could, Dave.
Dave?
I explored this a little more in depth to answer your question, John. And a lot of times what happens is the smaller vendors, very similar to our conference center project, don't have the bonding or capabilities, but they can be brought in as a subcontractor. very quickly and easily, and a lot of times that's what happens. They pick up the small stuff that they can do, and that also fits into the work that they'd like to do. Also, because they get a lot of parking lots and a lot of driveways and that type of stuff, and if they're deployed down in Brooklyn, it's hard for them to bring everything all up just for a one-day project on the street.
Okay, if no additional questions or comments, we have a motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Chris, Spring Arbor.
Similarly, this is 19.54 miles of roadway work in Spring Arbor, and this one we're recommending award to Michigan Paving and Materials at $3.642 million.
Okay, any questions of this one, commissioners? If not, a motion's in order.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Yep, Mike?
Chris, for everyone's benefit, occasionally I get asked, hey, we have this millage, we're doing all these roads in Spring Arbor and Summit, but you bought this fancy new machine, it's putting in great, awesome roads. How come I don't get that? Could you give us, it's a good answer for that, because I know the answer, but I think everyone should know the answer.
Sure. I guess the short answer is we're doing the best we can. Now that this has been approved, we're training as quickly as we can. This year will be a learning year. We're actually going to, on the Spring Arbor and Summit projects, do some of the projects. We have until, I believe, June 15th in the specifications to let the contractor know which projects we can do, which we have the capacity to do. It doesn't mean we have to have the projects done by June 15th. It just means we give them the list. They no longer are obligated to go pulverize those roads. We will prepare the base, but they will still pave them. That's an important element of this whole thing as a public-private partnership with our contractors to place the pavement. So, short answer is we're working through those nuances, and we're still going to build quality roads, whether it's through the traditional methods or with the new machinery. So, I'm not sure if you have more you'd like to know, Mike.
So the answer is that we're selecting the primary roads that we can do.
That's true. That's true.
Yes.
The baseline is our primary road system, of course.
Exactly.
20 to 30
And we're
miles a
putting
year.
down, when you say we're doing the base, we're putting down, or our machine will go through and it'll put in whatever the 8 inches is or something.
Correct.
Turning that all into a solid road, and then they're putting over, the paver's putting over the cap.
Correct.
Which is, how big's the cap? How thick is that?
Well, it will vary, but 2 inches would be what we project to be our minimum. Sometimes you can just chip seal, and then other times you can do a 3.5 inch for a stronger road.
So the answer is we're doing all the roads we can't possibly do with our new equipment. Is the answer?
It is. We're giving her all she's got, Captain.
Yeah, got it.
So to
Thank
speak.
you, Scotty.
But the truth is that we could never keep up with the new equipment with all these roads, correct?
Fast and furious within a 3-year time frame, which is very beneficial, so we're doing the best we can. We can only do maximum is 100 miles a year when we get up and going full speed, which is great. That's a great year. So our target would be between 50 and 80 miles each year after we get up and running.
And B, a lot of these are small subdivision streets that we probably can't operate in as efficiently with that big equipment either, correct?
We purchased a program, first of its kind in the world actually, where we have the full versatility to do that. So we break the train and we use our stationary plant that was purchased with the program. No, it's not a mile a day though, but neither is crushing and shaping. So no matter which way you spin it, a subdivision is always less efficient on a dollar per ton or dollar per square yard basis. So it is still faster and better than conventional methods sometimes when it comes to the timing. It can be equivalent is what I'm trying to say. It's not worse, for sure.
Phil?
Christopher, in Napoleon, behind the high school, East Avenue, we went in and made it a railroad track, basically. We repaired a lot of the cracks, and all the repairs are elevated. It's like driving down a railroad track. I think we did that last year, and I'd ask about it, and it was just part of the pre-improvement we needed to do on that road. Well, it's still got all these elevated asphalt and tar lines going across it that makes it very bumpy. I get a lot of questions about that, and I've told them that it's part of the repair. When's the second phase go where we smooth it out? When does that happen, do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know if you know, Bob.
It's been a year, and
We'll follow up with you on that.
Thank you.
It's a good question.
Okay, Chris, survey antenna and receiver.
The motion was complete on this one, just to be clear. We want to make sure we got the bid award. Okay. The vote? The vote happened, okay. Okay, great. All right, moving on. All right. So this is an enhancement to the, we have yet to dub a name for our new van, mystery van. Some people joke it's the FBI van, Scooby van. The bottom line is it came with LiDAR, as you know, which was an exciting addition that we were hoping to add someday in the future because of the cost savings, but we now have it. So here's the bottom line. Right now, when we design a road project, we send a crew of 1 to 2 engineers out, and they will spend days or weeks sometimes surveying a road project at a cost of $400 to $800 per day. So if you just go with an average of $2,000 to $4,000 per week or per project, this device, when added to the LiDAR, collects the data and corrects it to a sub-centimeter level accuracy. And so our crew no longer needs to go out and take that detailed survey work. So it will pay for itself within a year after about 5 to 10 projects. So it's a very powerful addition to the van and gives us a whole new level of detail for our designs. So, and this can all be done just by driving along doing our other work. So it's kind of a secondary enhancement, which is very powerful for us. And it does this, just in case you're interested, by getting GPS data and correlating it with motion in the van. It's very sensitive to motion, so it actually interpolates differences in the GPS signal to get down to the centimeter, both in elevation and horizontal position.
So Chris, with this addition, it takes us actually close to what we originally approved for the van and the equipment because you got a demo unit. So if you look at it that way, it's close to that amount, correct?
True, and you got twice the van than we originally talked about because it isn't just GPR, it's far more, yes.
Okay, commissioners, any questions of Chris, and if not, a motion's in order? Motion and support. All those in favor? I'm sorry?
Yeah, this is committee level, actually. I don't know if you were talking about that.
Again, so the committee members left are myself, Phil, and Sarah. And trust me, Dr. Tompkins, I've been there making motions like that myself. Shouldn't have. So if the motion is from Sarah and is Phil supporting? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
So that one's approved, Mr. Chair?
It was.
Okay, to go ahead and purchase though, right, at committee level?
It gets approved at this level.
Great.
Yep.
Awesome, thank you.
And lastly, your monthly report.
We provided a run-through on basically at a high level of what we have going on. Just want to give you a quick verbal update that we had our training in Nashville last week for the road recycling program. And I'm happy to report that it was a huge success. The Wirtgen, the company, the trainers remarked at how impressed they were with our team. It's a rare day that they see a group with such a high level of engagement. Basically, in the last day and the last afternoon when we were putting it all together, running the train, they did so with great success, and the trainers basically stepped off the equipment and let them run. So very positive accolades on the training. The next step is to get the equipment mobilized here, and we hope to begin work right after Memorial Day, after we do some more preliminary work over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We have yet to finalize our selection of roads, by the way, but we have a long list of candidates that we're vetting. And our patching program. I don't know if you want to share anything on that, Bob, but it's been a huge success the first week off the ground, working with our contractors. They're through a few townships now, is my understanding.
Yep, so far, we've got up to 14 contracted patch crews. That's on top of our normal 6 to 11 patch crews that are out there. The contracted crews are going into a township and doing like everything. Our guys are still chasing like the big potholes, the service requests and stuff. But so far with those contracted crews, they worked 4 days last week because of weather, and with another 3 days this week, they're projecting to have Springport, Parma, Tompkins, and Sandstone done. So within basically 7 days, they're going to have about 7 of the townships done. So that's well ahead of what we were kind of expecting them to do, but they seem to be doing a good job and not having any issues with them.
Any questions? Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Takes us down to claims. Pay the bills. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Other minutes are there in the June reporting schedule, and it takes us down to public comments. Brad, want to talk? Okay. Committee member comments. Hearing none, we're adjourned.